Day 22, just a walking day of about 20 miles as I'm trying to get to Cape Ashizuri. The day started off walking along the shore, and I was kind of surprised to see so many people at the beach at sunrise. And there was one big group of people, I'm not sure what they were doing there. They must have been wanting to watch the sunrise. A little farther on, there were a bunch of surfers, maybe about 30 to 40 people surfing, and then a whole bunch of people watching them. What I found most surprising is that it was probably about the low 40s, if even 40, or high 30s, low 40s in temperature outside. I had my down jacket on and was cold, and yet people were surfing. So I can't imagine how cold the water was. Most of the day was walking along the seashore, kind of coming to the seashore, going in and out of it, but long stretches with it by the side. A lot of it was rocky, but every so often there would be these long sandy beaches, which looked like in the summer they would probably be pretty filled up with people. Today, pretty uneventful. I met a few Ohenro, talked to just a couple. The group of 3 people, we kept passing each other at different times. I met one Ohenro who just goes out every weekend and tries to do about 20 or 30 kilometers and then goes back to his home, and then the next weekend takes the bus or public transportation to where he left off and continues from there. Pretty much just a walking day. Nothing super special happened. I'm walking at kind of a big, fast pace, so I'm getting to my hotels a little bit early, so I can probably go a little bit farther, or I'm leaving myself time in case I find something that I want to see and explore. Today, none of that happened. There were sidewalks most of the day, though there are periods where there's no sidewalks and you're kind of walking the road. The biggest downside of today was a tunnel about a mile long. It was just kind of an unpleasant mile-long walk through the grungy tunnel, but made it through. I'm staying at a inn where I actually have a bed and a desk and a chair. Most of the inns I've been staying at are on the floor, and I've gotten used to it, but I actually like sitting in a chair and lets my legs stretch out a little bit more comfortably than when I'm on the floor. I'm not lonely on the pilgrimage. I actually like the solitude of walking alone. I don't mind talking to another pilgrim for a little bit of a while, but I enjoy walking alone and either left to my own thoughts, or maybe listening to some music or listening to a podcast. The only time I really get lonely is when I'm at inns during meals, or when I want to share something with someone. Having a delicious meal by yourself, personally, I don't really enjoy all that much. I enjoy the food and I love it and it's tasty, but it's so much better to share with the ones you love or friends. When you taste something delicious, you want to, oh man, isn't this so good? And if there's no one around, you can't really share that with somebody. Similarly, when walking, there are a lot of times where I just like to be, like the solitude of walking, but there are also times where you want to, look out at the ocean and the rocks and talk to someone about it and enjoy it together. There are times along this when I'm not lonely so much as I want to share the experience with someone, particularly my wife Eiko or friends. But aside from that, it doesn't get all that. The solitude is nice. Just got back from a long but great day. Today basically was walking in a giant circle, but this time on purpose. I left my inn, walked down the Cape to Cape Ashizuri, a little over 20 plus K, and visited Kongo Fukuji. Beautiful temple. It's supposed to be Canon's paradise, and it's laid out like that. Beautiful rock gardens and ponds and wonderful buildings. It's down by the Cape with huge cliffs that are very picturesque. The walk down was blue skies, sandy beaches at times. I was actually walking on the beach for part of it, walking through bamboo forest for other parts of it, walking along the highway for parts of it. But the highway I took wasn't the one mainly used by cars. It was pretty abandoned, very few cars on it. There were stretches where all I could hear was actually no human activity whatsoever, which is kind of hard to do in Japan. Just heard the birds chirping and the waves lapping. It was not a lot of wind, not big waves today. Then coming back, I went the other side of the Cape, walked up, grayer skies, a little bit more highway, but a nice walk back. I went through John Manjiro's birth town. John Manjiro was a whaler who in 1841 his shipwrecked. He was kind of floating out at sea, got picked up by Americans who took him back to Massachusetts, where he stayed for about 10 years until he was returned to Japan, at which point he was hired by the Tokugawa government to sort of act as to teach them about the US and for his English skills. Altogether, there and back, way over 40 kilometers, maybe about 25 plus miles. A lot of walking, just looking about. The temple was really quite beautiful. I wasn't originally planning to go there and back, but the innkeeper recommended it, and some innkeepers just sort of welcome you. Here's the room, here's your dinner, that's all. Others are really much more proactive in almost curating the Ohenro. This innkeeper loved to talk about it. She showed me different things that she's gotten from different pilgrims over the years. She had this book of all the images that are contained within the temples. In my videos on the temples, I talk about some of the images that the temples contain, but I've never seen most of them. Most of them are hidden from public view. But she had a book which had all the images beautifully photographed and lit. That was really quite educational. It also had pictures from 1905 Ohenro. It was great to see some of the changes that some of the temples have gone through. It's a book that intrigued me and that I'm going to search out and see if I can find at a reasonable price. But the innkeeper was the one who recommended, just go there and come back. I was originally planning to go there and sort of stay around there, but she sort of pushed me to do this long walk today, and it was well worth it. Those innkeepers who kind of curate the Ohenro are great sources of information and advice, and I welcome meeting them. I really appreciate those innkeepers that like to kind of curate the Ohenro and offer some really good advice and encouragement and paths and trails to take and things to see. Today's innkeeper recommended almost too much for me to see. I just got back and he's like, so did you go to that shrine? I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about that shrine. I passed maybe 10 shrines today. I should have written down the one that she specifically told me to visit, but sorry I missed it. But that gives me something to see the next time I go around. Now it's time to take a deep soak in a nice deep Japanese bath, watch a little sumo, and then have a delicious dinner.